Reggie here, your friendly neighborhood bodybuilder and comic book collector. And I want to welcome you to another one of my videos. And you can probably tell if you've been watching me doing these live shows the last couple of days, you can probably tell that my voice is getting just a little bit better. I am actually I feel fine, and I felt fine for the last several days, but I sound as if I smoke a pack of cigarettes every single day, possibly 2 packs. That's how rough my voice has been. It's been a combination of a lot of coughing and a lot of talking. Had just been a disaster for my voice. I sat down to record some videos a couple of days ago. I literally could not make it through a single video to record for you guys. And then my voice was a little bit better. And so I can tell you, you guys are going to be seeing some videos in the pursuing days where it seems like I'm going to still be sick. Just know that those videos were recorded, as I started to feel better, knowing that I needed to create some content for you guys. So bear with me as you guys start to see those videos rolling out. So we are going to do a couple of things in this live broadcast. I started receiving messages around 1 o'clock today from comic book soldiers everywhere. Comic book soldiers in this country, comic book soldiers across the pond started sending me messages around 1 o'clock today about the state of Spider-Man in the MCU. And we are going to dig into it today, and we're going to do it in a slightly contrarian way. As you guys know, I try to look at things a little bit differently because I think it's sometimes helpful if we can kind of look at situations from different vantage points to give us a perspective on things. And so I'm going to offer you guys my perspective. And I want to give a huge shout out to every single person that DM'd me or sent me an email about Spider-Man Far From Home. I had my man RegieCollects was like, Spider-Man news equals Reggie must be going live. And so a lot of people were like, hey, when are we going live so we can dig into this issue? And we're actually going to talk about it. We are going to spend a little bit of time talking about it. And so I want to say hello really quickly to some comic book soldiers that have joined me here in the room. Chris Barrett is here. Mr. Comics 89 is in the house. Congratulations on those comics earlier today and your win of that mystery box. Tina's in the house. I am doing well. It is good to see you, my friend. 123 is in the house. It is good to see you. Orb is here. ICT Vinny is in the house. Johnny Future is here. H-Town Comics is in the house. John's Comics with Kids is here. It is good to see you, my friend. We say hello to Johnny Future already. Harvey Abel is in the house, my friend. It is good to see you. Aaron Finkelstein is in the house. How you doing? Welcome to the live stream, my friend. Urban Videos Plus is here. I am doing well. Thank you for asking. Scrolling down through the names, TJ Slabdragon Watson. Sir, it is good to see you. Says, after Sony stock took a dump on the news, Sony is back at the tables. Talk continues. Scrolling down, Chauncey is in the house. It is good to see you. He says, I'm interested to see what he thinks about Spider-Man not being in the MCU anymore. I don't think Sony made a huge mistake. We are going to dig into that. We're going to dig into it. And what we want to do is I'm actually going to dig into I'm going to dig into this issue of the Sony Marvel stuff, and then I'm going to unbox a book. And as you guys know, I try to work within themes, and this was an accidental theme that is working out quite nicely. So bear with me for that. All right, so here we go. Marvel and Sony have been for months trying to work out a deal regarding the status of Spider-Man. And what has seemed to have happened is that Marvel basically said to Sony, hey, let's do a 50-50 co-financing deal. And what a 50-50 co-financing deal really is we are going to put up 50% of the money. You put up 50% of the money. And on the flip side, we get 50% of the revenues. You get 50% of the revenues. And that's a big swing, right? And on the surface of it, it seems like a super fair deal, right? It's like a marriage. Everybody dump in 50%. We get 100% of the whole and possibly a little extra because of, us coming together. And so that is essentially what Marvel was proposing to Sony. And Sony basically said no. So the deal prior to this deal was basically that Marvel got I think it's 5% of first, what is it? First something. Oh, I can't remember the term. Um, I cannot remember the term for the life of me. But basically what was happening was that Marvel was basically getting 5% of potentially the opening weekend box office. So they were getting only 5% of possibly either the first day that the movie was released or the first weekend, that first box office, they were getting 5%. 5% is a healthy amount of money, but that it is night and day between 50% and 5%. And so part of it is if you're putting in 50% of the money, you get out 50%. That seems somewhat fair, but they were getting 5% for basically lending creative efforts and energy towards the movies that were being created. And so Marvel clearly didn't like that 5% arrangement. They were aiming for something that was much more equitable, which is, hey, let's split the baby down the middle 50-50. Sony basically said no. And supposedly Sony made a counter offer. So the 50-50 was rejected. So there were some news outlets that are reporting that a counter offer was made, but we don't have any details of that. And so my first statement about this thing is that as I received information, as I watched the memes get posted to Instagram, people were concluding that this is over. And what I will say to you is I don't think that it's over. And I think TJ kind of alluded to that as well. I don't think that the deliberation, the discussions, the negotiation, I don't think that they're over. I think that what we are seeing are leaks that are coming out. And I don't know that the leaks are purposeful. And I'll talk more about that in a minute. These may be people that are just simply running their mouth. And we have some sources here in the comic book community that actually, not to me, but give information to the comic book community that they probably shouldn't. And so we should not be surprised that information is leaking out of these organizations. And maybe it is purposeful. I mean, let's be honest. They do a really good job of keeping like the creative stuff secret. And so now all of a sudden there's this huge flood of stuff, but I don't know if it's purposeful or not. I really don't know. But what I will say is that I don't believe that the negotiations are over. And here's part of my thinking. Oh, I should also mention that Marvel also gets, I believe, 100% of the merchandising associated with Spider-Man. So they were getting 5% of opening box office, right, for movies, but they were getting, I believe, 100% of the merchandising. And I believe that Sony licensed, of course, Spider-Man, and they basically have possession of it and have, I think, for about 10 years or so. But up until this point, outside of like that 5%, there's, I don't think, have been any sharing of any sort. So Sony has made movies, they keep their money. Marvel has made movies with Spider-Man, they keep their money. There's been no sharing. And so this was this 50-50 co-financing, 50-50, equity thing. That's a pretty big deal. So here's why I don't think that it's over. When you start talking about the kind of money that we are talking about that is being made and or lost, those dollar amounts in my mind are material. These are material dollar amounts. And if something is material, when you have a public company, those material facts which can affect shareholder value have to be disclosed through official channels, which is typically a press release. It is the official statement from an organization regarding facts that are material that affect shareholder value. Okay. Right now, if you look at, and I've read many of them from the LA Times, from CNBC, from BuzzFeed, several other news outlets, I didn't see any quotes from any Marvel people where or Sony people saying, hey, talks are over. We are walking away from the table. We're done with this deal. I haven't seen any official statements from either organization. And I also haven't seen any official statements from the organizations in the form of press releases. And if I missed it, please somebody correct me. Mako is saying, it seems to me that Disney is bullying Sony for more money. Not sure why people are defending Disney. I don't know if people are defending Disney. I don't think that that's what I'm doing here. What I am saying is that I don't think that this is over. And because let's be honest, this right here, this all is about money. Let's never be confused about it. It is all about money. Marvel made a mistake. by licensing Spider-Man, and they had to do it, I think, to kind of keep the lights on, and now they are regretting that decision. And it's about money. There is no if, ands, or buts about it. It is about money, and it's kind of sad. So, getting back to what I was saying, these are material facts that I think have to be publicly disclosed. I don't think, because we haven't seen official statements or unofficial statements from representatives of these organizations, I don't believe that this is over. Again, material facts I do believe have to be publicly disclosed. And so where I'm headed is that I believe that talks may have stalled, but talks are not necessarily over. And so I still personally remain hopeful and optimistic that they are going to be able to resolve this. I would like to believe that they're going to be able to sit at a table and have a constructive conversation that will hopefully make both parties happy. and we can hope that that's actually going to happen. And if it doesn't, let's say that it doesn't. Let's say if they don't actually, if they aren't able, here, Steve is like, that's a big difference. That is a big difference. 5% of opening weekend and 50% of revenues overall when the movie made $1 billion. That is material. That is some material money that can actually be made. And so there's a comment here. My feelings are the only way we're going to see Spider-Man versus Venom versus Carnage versus Morbius is for the MCU to drop out. I'm okay with it, honestly. So here's the thing is, I don't know if I can agree with that. I don't necessarily know if I believe that to be true, considering the fact that Sony, I don't believe, has any restrictions over their ability to actually use the character, because technically they do use the character. And the truth is, Kevin Feige unofficially actually helped with the Venom movie. And so they were actually in the middle of having discussions about Kevin Feige actually taking on an expanded role to continue providing guidance to what they were trying to do in the Spider-Verse. And this is a tidbit that I actually did not know until today, that Sony actually, the Spider-Verse as we know it, is actually comprised of 900 characters. I did not know that. I thought it was like, Venom, Spider-Man, the Rogues Gallery. It is comprised of 900 characters. That is essentially what Marvel has sold or licensed to Sony, is 900 characters. And so getting back on track here, Kevin Feige was giving direction unofficially to the Venom movies. And so there was the potential for us to eventually see some additional things come out. Sorry about that. As you guys can tell, I am still slightly under the weather. So there is a chance. There is a chance that some things may actually happen. Kareem, all about the money, no doubt about that. And so it's shameful. It really is. It really is shameful that this has happened, but no one should really be surprised. TJ saying Disney's offer was more than fair for all the money they made for Sony when Sony failed. Well, so Sony, I think, and you guys probably know better than I, but I think Sony had some success with the first movie, or with the Tobey Maguire movies. Then they retooled, and then they failed. And then that's when they went to MCU. Kevin Feige was like, yo, can we get some help? And then they had some major success. And I think, and I think part of it is that Sony is now thinking that because they made $800 million off of Venom, that they don't need Kevin Feige and the MCU. And part of it, maybe there's some truth there, right? Maybe there's some truth there. But what you cannot deny is the success that the Kevin Feige influenced movies have had. And I want to say that Far From Home was Sony's biggest movie, I think, of all time, maybe. And it may be the only major blockbuster for this year that was not out of the MCU officially, out of Marvel Studios. But I guess Sony is basically feeling themselves. They have, a $1 billion movie. They have an $800 movie in Venom. And that's enough to give somebody some confidence, where they think, hey, well, we don't necessarily need Kevin Feige and we can go it alone. And we don't know whether it's true or not. I mean, I would rather have Kevin Feige on my side than not, given his track record. If you look at what Kevin Feige has done, it is unprecedented success. Why would you not want that guy on your side? But ego, hubris is a tough thing, you know? And here's the other part of it is, just because Kevin Feige isn't working with Sony anymore doesn't mean that we won't get movies. And it doesn't mean that we won't potentially get good movies. You know, part of the thinking, I guess, is that the imprint of Kevin Feige on like the Spider-Man franchise is there. And now that they kind of have the formula, maybe that's their thinking, and maybe they feel like they can pull it off. But there is a Venom sequel in the works featuring Carnage. There is possibly a Kraven the Hunter in the works. And then I want to say that there was one other movie that was kind of rumored to be in the works. And who knows? Who knows whether, what's rumor, what's fact? We don't know until there's, again, some of these public statements that kind of tell us what the truth happens to be. Gibbon versus the Werewolf by Knife. Yep, sign me up for that. I'm good. I'll be there opening weekend with my giving them my $14 or whatever it costs to actually get into the movie. Tom Holland is still contracted to make 2 more appearances in the MCU. Then Sony gets creative control. I don't know about that. I honestly don't know about that. So I'm going to defer to Clay because I don't know about that. What my takeaway from what I read was that Tom Holland is still he is still under contract. I don't know if it's to the MCU or whether it is to Sony Pictures, but I believe that Tom Holland is still in play. To what degree, I don't know. So at the very last minute, I went and grabbed this water. And I'm so thankful that I did, because clearly I can't make it more than like 5 minutes without taking a sip. So I'm going to defer to Clay on this one because I honestly don't know that. But again, this kind of goes to some people saying, rip Tom Holland. I'm going to miss Tom Holland. The truth is the guy's actually still going to be around because I believe that he is still contracted to do some movies. I just don't know whether those are contracted to Sony or contracted through to the MCU. So we'll kind of see what's happening there. And here's a comment here. So Eddie is saying this. It is a loss to fans. Can't disagree. Can't disagree with that at all. But here's the thing. I would say have some hope that it's not over, because again, I have not seen official statements from either Sony or Marvel that basically have said we are done, that we have reached an impasse, we are no longer going to be able to move forward. So let's have some hope. But true indeed, what Eddie is saying here is true, that in the end, the real losers are the fans, right? There's no doubt about that. Here we go. So Dr. Dre, the collector, that's what's up. Dr. Dre, I love your beats, brother. He says definitely about the money, and Sonny knows the backlash with the fans they have after the Dark Phoenix story. About well said about that one. But at the same time, where Sony is sitting, they're like, hey, we made, almost $2 billion off of these 2 movies, off of these 2 characters, and we have 900 characters more to go. Do we really want to give up this money? Do we really want to give up the success and the dollars to the MCU? And I get it. I get where they're coming from. I would say, Kevin Feige is a little magical. He is a little magical. And so the question becomes, can you deliver that same kind of success without him? I don't know. One of the things I'll say about the Dark Phoenix is that I heard some statements that came out from the director, and I was very, very pleased with this. The director actually owned it. The director did not blame the fact that he opened after Avengers Endgame. He didn't blame the actors. He didn't blame, anybody else. He basically said, this is on me. This is my mistake. I decided to go in this direction, because I think he also wrote it. He owned it. And that was really refreshing to see someone actually own it instead of trying to pivot off of it and, get the poop off their pants. He owned it. And I thought that was a respectful thing to do. And that guy, he gets my respect for owning it, because you can't, be right all the time. And if you mess up, because everybody does, at least be man enough or woman enough to say, you know what? It's my fault. I did it. I messed it up, So Man Bat, how you doing, brother? It is good to see you. Scrolling down through some of the comments here, Sony pulled the JD and dropped the guarantee win. Yeah, yeah. I mean, the dude has the Midas touch. I mean, I don't know what the heck Kevin Feige, what magic he makes, but he is, I think he is the highest grossing producer. I don't know if all times or of the last like little bit, but look at this dude's track record over the last 10 years. This dude's track record is impressive. It is impressive. He went out there, what is it, 21 times and just killed it. Killed it 21 times. It really is impressive. Thank you, TJ. I definitely appreciate that. I feel better, but the throat is just still not quite right. So I'm scrolling down through some of the comments here. 312 is basically asking if I'm wearing those rose-colored glasses again. Brother, I will never take them off, because here's the thing. If everything is negative, why would I want to be part of that? You know what I'm saying? My thing is, let's be optimistic. Let's take a contrarian point of view, and let's instead of getting in the pit, let's evaluate what's going on. You know what I'm saying? I know you're joking about it, but you know, it's super easy to be negative, man. It's super easy to say, woe is me. You know, I can't believe they can't get it together. I'm never going to go see a movie again. Forget Sony, forget Disney. It's easy to say that. And I don't want to be that guy. I want to talk positively, and I want to say it's not over until it's over. And even if it's over, you know what? Let's hope that they can still make some good movies, right? Because it's like companies are going to do what companies are going to do. You know what I'm saying? They're going to do what's in the best interest of the company, which is essentially the shareholder, which is actually me, because I own Disney and Sony stock. So it's like, you have to do what's the right thing. You have to be a good corporate citizen for shareholder value. And I respect that. Do I always agree with the decisions? No, not at all. Venom did 8 million. So here's the thing. Comic Book Hustler is making a point here. And I think I talked about this before he came in. So technically they didn't. They made 800 million with unofficial support from Kevin Feige. So behind the scenes, Kevin Feige was providing guidance and creative direction on Venom. And the reason for this is because things were going so well with Venom and Far From Home, they were having discussions behind the scenes about expanding Kevin Feige's role to provide more creative support and input into the things that Sony was doing. And the reason for that is because Sony actually has possession of the Spider-Verse, which includes 900 characters. That's a lot of characters. That is a lot of characters. And so I think Sony recognizes the creative energies and the guidance that can be gleaned from Kevin Feige. And that's why they were evaluating it. But when you are making $2 billion, you start to say, hey, well, maybe we don't need this dude, you know? And so there's always that disconnect, no matter how you look at it, between creative people and business people. I'm a business guy, and I know dealing with creative people, they don't necessarily care all the time. They just want to put out the best possible product that they can create. But the business people sometimes get in the way because it comes back to dollars and cents and shareholder value and all this other kind of stuff. So, there we go. Is Tom Holland going to continue to be Spider-Man? If only. So what we think to be true is that Tom Holland is under contract. I don't know how many movies he is contracted for. Somebody in the chat here suggested that he is still under contract for 2 more movies or appearances in the MCU. I haven't seen anything in like the 6 articles that I've read that say that, but I could completely be wrong. But it appears that for the foreseeable future, Tom Holland will continue to play Spider-Man, so it won't be a complete reboot of things. And so here's just a crazy fact. Disney bought Marvel in 2009 for $4 billion. And I think right now they've made 18 billion. I think they've made 18 billion off of the 4 billion that they spent. I think that's a pretty good return. I'm just saying. And what I was reading here, the Los Angeles Times, this was a point that I made earlier when I was saying that I don't think that it was over. When Los Angeles Times actually reached out to Sony and Marvel, neither company gave public statements. And so again, if a company is about to walk away from a significant amount of money that affects shareholder value, I believe that they have to make public statements either in a press release or something like this in order to communicate this to shareholders. And so the fact that there is no direct quotes in anything that I've read from an official Marvel person, and I have not seen any press releases, I don't believe that it's over. At least I want to believe that it's not over. So no half intelligent business person will be okay. Scrolling down through the comments here, scrolling down. Yeah. So yeah, Tom Holland. Yeah. He doesn't care. He's like, yeah, just tell me where to stand. Give me my spandex and have my check ready. Have my check ready for me when I'm done. All right. So I'm scrolling down through. Yeah, Mr. Comics. And that was one of the stats that I kind of read in here, man, was that they own the Spider-Verse. Sony does, and through licensing. And that Spider-Verse is comprised of 900 characters, which I just think that's just a fantastic number. I mean, it's probably like, guy in the back, standing at his locker when Peter Parker was like still in high school. I mean, it's probably some of that, but then it's also like, major characters, the Rhino, the Vulture, Doc Ock. It's probably all of those characters, Venom, Carnage, et cetera, that they have possession of. So there you go. Ton of associated characters, background characters, rogue gallery. That's part of what makes Spider-Man really cool, is that you get to experience him as a hero, but then also as a person as well. And you get to know his friends, his family, his, associates. There is a lot of texture there with Spider-Man. And I think it's one of the wonderful things that is, you start to see other characters headed down that path. They're starting to do that a little bit with Carnage. I'm sorry, with Venom. With Dylan, right? Dylan came out of nowhere. Dylan has like a family, or he is the family. And there's some build out there, there's some texture that I think people can get behind. So Comic Jabroni is like, it's every person that is shown a face. It is guy at desk, guy at locker, gal in background, gal walking across campus, old man walking across campus with cane, right? I mean, it is like every character ever known. That's how they get to the 900. I can promise you that. Yeah, ton of people, everyone and their mother. Scrolling down through some of the comments here. And again, one of the crazy things is that up until this point, basically what Marvel was getting was like 5% of, I think, either opening day or opening weekend dollars, 5%, which was a healthy amount of money for lending this creative support. And what Marvel was basically saying to Sony is, hey, let's split the cost 50-50. Let's split the revenue 50-50. Sony said, no, that's basically where we are right now. Supposedly, Sony made a counter offer that was probably less than 50-50. And I guess that's where there was an impasse, because early reports basically said Sony rejected the 50-50, walked away from the table. Then revised reports said that no, Sony actually made a counter offer, and then Marvel rejected that. And so that's kind of where we are, is we are in this stalemate, if you will. So scrolling down through some of the comments here. Kyler, how you doing, man? It is good to see you. Chaos Lord is like, pretty much any character that first appeared in Spider-Man, Sony could claim. I mean, you can make an argument about just about any character, right? I mean, who knows how nuanced the contracts were between Marvel and DC at the time? There could be exceptions, like Punisher could have been written out, which is how Netflix got it. We don't necessarily know, but there could have been all kinds of negotiations where they sat across the table and had these negotiations and probably wrote some characters out, wrote some characters in. Who knows? So scrolling down through some of the comments here, Harvey Abel, yeah, brother, I hope that you feel better, my friend. 50-50 is good if you can get it. 50-50 is good and the problem was, I don't think that they could get it, because Sony is like, hey, we take, I don't know the exact math, right? But let's just say 95%, we get 5%, you get 50-50, not so good for Sony, right? And again, everyone's trying to deliver shareholder value, right? Because what happens is when you make that kind of money, shareholders are like, okay, so how much more are you going to make next year? right? And so by doing a deal of this sort, you are automatically starting in a deficit, right? Because now you're saying what I had, I am now forfeiting. And so it's an interesting dynamic. And there's a lot at play here. There is a lot at play here. So scrolling down through some of the comments here, boom, 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 boom. Well said. Well said. Castle Punisher first appeared in Spider-Man, and that was after Morbius' first appearance. Think they could make a case for it. I don't know if it's about making a case versus what does the contract say. I think that's what I'm trying to say, is that there may be a contract that was actually written that prevents them from being able to have access to Punisher. So Far From Home, here we go. So yes, they're getting their CGI intact. We see the differences from Venom to Far From Home. Venom 2 Carnage should look. Yep, fingers crossed that it does. Yeah, there we go. Scrolling down through some of the comments here, scrolling. And so, yeah, this is like part of the discussion right now, is that there's all this debate about what is actually coming out of the Spider-Verse. There is the rumors around Morbius that supposedly has started filming. I don't know. There is rumors around the Craven, there's a movie around a Craven movie. Rumors around a Craven movie, let's say that. There is, of course, the confirmed Venom 2. And so who knows? Who knows? The fact that they were in the process of talking to Kevin Feige about an expanded role leads me to believe that they have plans to do some things. But what are those things? No one knows. So scrolling down through some of the comments here, scrolling down. Yep, there's some other rumors. There you go. Black Cat, Silver Sable. Those rumors are still floating out there, but kind of sort of unconfirmed. A lot of this stuff is unconfirmed, but I would assume that both of those characters, the Black Cat, Silver Sable, those are all part of that 900, along with Sinister Sense, the Rhino, et cetera, et cetera. I think that's what's all in there. Do you think this will allow Spider-Man books to chill out a bit in the market? No, I don't. I really don't. I don't believe that this is going to have any impact on the state of the FMVs associated with these comics. I really don't. And I say that partly because this isn't over. This is still in flux. This has not been decided. And okay, so movie makes 800 million or $1 billion or $500 million. I don't think that has any impact on somebody saying, hey, there was still a movie. There was still a movie. And so I want to get my money because this character was in a movie. And that person that's selling that book won't care how much money was generated. It won't matter. It won't matter. Even if the movie, I think what's going to happen, just like every other movie, there is the run up in price and then there's the coming down of the price and then it kind of stabilizes. But I don't know if it's going to get back to those levels. I don't know. I don't know. And then, people ask me all the time, what's the perfect time to get a book? The time when you have the money. The time when you have the money and you can look at the FMV of that book and you can potentially get that book for at FMV or below FMV. That's the time to get the book, because who knows what the future holds with any of this stuff, because you really don't know. Scrolling down, yeah, Man Bat is making the point here. And this was in one of the articles that I read, basically saying that Sony will not be able to reference anything that's happening in the movies. It is what it is. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, it makes sense that happens. We've entered our agreements. You have an ex-wife. You don't talk about your ex-wife or your ex-husband or whatever it is. You just move on, right? And so they will potentially move on, and I think that it'll be fine. I'm not too concerned about that, to be honest with you. I'm not. My hope, again, is that they're still going to work this stuff out. So, yep, we talked about that. Still under contract, definitely. Scrolling down, we need to find out about the 900. Look at the cover of Amazing Spider-Man 100. No, of 200. I think it's 200. There's a healthy number of them there on that cover. Scrolling down through the comments here. Scrolling down. So Spider-Man isn't leaving, it said. Sony stock is dropping as we speak. Their investors are forcing the board members to get back on negotiating. There you go. I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised, because anyone who is paying attention knows that there is magic that is happening with Kevin Feige in the MCU. Everyone knows it, right? And these board of directors members are typically people that are of the industry, right? These are people that have been around, that are sitting on other organizations that are sometimes affiliated, not affiliated with movies, television, merchandising, et cetera, et cetera. And so I am not, if this is true, which I don't doubt, I am not surprised by it at all, because sometimes it doesn't matter what the president or the CEO wants to do. If the board member is like, hey, we need to make some magic, magic gets made. So again, that's why I'm saying I don't believe that this is over. I really don't believe that it's over. So scrolling down through some of the comments here, I'm way behind. Wow, I missed a lot of stuff. So Comic Book 62, how you doing, my friend? It is good to see you. Asking if I've seen the prices for ASM 149, 9.8. I have not. I have not. So Variety reports a deal is still possible between Sony. Yep. I completely agree. This is what the whole gist of this conversation has been about, is that it is not over. It is probably potentially still going to happen. Spider-Man is the flagship character of Marvel. That is why Sony wanted it. Yeah, Sony's not stupid, not at all. Scrolling up through some of the comments. I just read an article that says Sony put The Punisher in motion on Netflix, so that confirms Sony owning all of Spider-Man's people. Never going to get to 50-50. It's a tough argument. Scrolling down through the comments, or scrolling up, I should say. Scrolling down through some of the comments. All right. Don't get me wrong. Oh, I think that's part of another conversation, which I lost. So, all right. So let's do this. I want to pop open a book. Pop this open. We're going to do a little bit of a live haul here and see what's in this. And this, you're going to see potentially or hear a reference to this in a video that is actually going to be coming out, I think, later this week. I alluded to it in the video. Did not expect it to arrive as quickly as it did, to be honest with you, because I wasn't sure that I was actually going to be able to reach an agreement with the individual on this thing, but I did, and it is here, and you guys are here, and there's peanuts. There's peanuts. There's peanuts all over my floor. People, let me tell you, don't ship comics with peanuts. There is possibly nothing more annoying than peanuts. Bubble wrap. Bubble wrap is the way to go. I'm just telling you. All right, so we're going to pop this thing open. It's clobbering time. Disney owns merch rights. Yeah, so yeah, that is something that we talked about as well, is that essentially what Marvel was getting was 5% of either the opening day or the opening weekend's box office. That was essentially what they were getting. But Marvel actually owns, I believe, 100% of the merchandising rights. So thankfully, Marvel didn't give the house all the way away back in the day. But I promise you that they are really regretting their decisions to license Spider-Man out in the first place. But they did it in order to survive. You know, thankfully, with the mutants and the Fantastic Four, they were able to recover those assets through the purchase of the whole company, right? But I don't think that that's going to be possible with Sony. I just don't think that's going to be possible. But again, I remain hopeful that they're actually going to be able to work this thing out, and we're going to see, you know, some Tom Holland Spider-Man action in an upcoming MCU movie. Man, there's a lot of bubble wrap around this thing. Goodness gracious. All right. So we have a nice book here. I'm going to open this thing up. So I apologize to everyone who watched the Stockton Con video that I dropped earlier today. Had a couple people message me like, yo, why is this video so short? And the truth is, I didn't buy anything at Stockton Con, but I did buy some really cool stuff at Silicon Valley Comic Con, which you guys are going to see coming up. So definitely stay tuned. I think that video drops this week. So this is definitely a cool book. We're going to take it all the way out of the plastic here. Here we go. I was going to be like 50-50 profits and merch. Yeah, the problem is with that is that the merchandising of Spider-Man and superheroes in general goes much, much broader, right? You would have to make it a little bit more nuanced than that, because, you know, if I, for example, were Marvel, I would not want to give up 50% of my pajama sales and 50% of the merchandise that is sold, you know, at Disney theme parks, right? So you would have to, if you were to give up some percentage of merchandising, you would have to put some caveats around it. You would have to put some caveats around it to limit it, because you have to think about all of the places that Spider-Man merchandise, Venom merchandise is actually sold. It is extensive, and it's not necessarily the same as taking a percentage of a box office, right? It's a little bit different. And so the compromise may be, you know, a 30-70 split, a 40-60 split, something like that. That could be a little bit more favorable to them. But a 50% split on merchandise could be a little tough, just because of all of the deals and relationships that are in place with Marvel and its various merchandising partners. So no, I don't. Captain Terror's like, do you care about Star Wars? No, I don't. I am not a Star Wars fan at all. I am, however, watching DS9 from the very beginning. I've been watching DS9 for the last like week and a half, and I'm enjoying that. But not Star Wars. So I actually watched the Spider-Verse. I thought it was awesome. I'm gonna be honest with you. And I know a lot of people don't like derivative characters. At least that's what, you know, I hear from a lot of people, that they don't like Miles Morales because he's a derivative character. But I would make an argument that Carnage is a derivative character, and Scream is a derivative character, and Null is a derivative character, right? I mean, if you think about the nature of you know, Venom and We Are Venom, everything that comes after Venom is essentially a derivative character. So I liked Spider-Verse. I thought it was good. I've never really read anything related to Miles Morales before, but I watched that show, that cartoon, and I thought it was well done. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thoroughly enjoyed it. So scrolling down through some of the comments here. All right, so let me go ahead and show you guys this book. This is what I picked. Oh no. Okay, so here we go. That is what I picked up. Went ahead and snagged this. I'm gonna be honest with you, I paid more money for this thing than I wanted to pay. But sometimes, and I did it knowingly, because, you know, the deal had to work, and there was, you know, someone had some money into the book and stuff like that. But I ended up pulling the trigger on the book. I've actually had my hands on one of these books a couple of months ago, and I was thinking about buying it. But what happened is, some kid back in the day actually took a pen to the black area over here and literally colored that solid black. And it looked really good until the light hit it, and you realize that it was it was color touch, and color touch really, really bad. So pick this one up. Definitely a cool book. I need to look closely at it. It does not look like this book was ever pressed, and I'm not surprised because of who I got it from. It probably wasn't clean either, but I ended up picking it up, paid a little bit more for it than what I thought. But I'm definitely pleased to finally have this daggone book in the collection, making a lot of progress on the Amazing Spider-Man run. We're getting pretty low. We're getting pretty low, to be honest with you. I'm looking at the list down there, getting pretty low, and I feel pretty confident that we should be able to wrap this thing up by the end of the year. That's going to be the goal. So we'll see. So again, picked up this book. This is Amazing Spider-Man number 13, the origin and first appearance of Mysterio. And right behind me, if you can see, that is a Mysterio from my man Randy Resnake. He hooked me up, and now I have my own Mysterio. So there you go. Thank you guys. I definitely appreciate it. He says, Chaos Lord says, I haven't owned one of those since 1976. So you mean the year that I was born, my friend, was the last year you own? I love this dude. Mushir, how you doing, my friend? It is good to see you, brother. It is always good to see you, my friend. Lee is in the house. Michael is here. Scrolling down through the comments. No, Chris Barrett. Chris Barrett's like, Chaos Lord, did you have a slab of that comic in 1976? No, he did not. Johnny Future, that is 13, brother. We are making progress. So here, Spider-Man is not leaving the MCU. Not yet. Not yet. It has not yet happened. Am I throwing a party when I finish the run? I probably won't have any money when the run is over. So no, I showed my wife my list and the progress that I was making, and I sent her a photo, and she replied back, "Wow, what run are you going to work on next?" That is my wife right there. She's like, cool. So what you gonna do next? I absolutely love that woman, but we are making progress. I don't know that I'll do a party, but what I may end up doing, honestly, is I am going to spread them out all across my floor when my kids are away, and I'm just going to stare at them. I am going to stare at them, and I'm going to enjoy them, because the vast majority of the Amazing Spider-Man books that I've been picking up, the 1 through 261, the vast majority of them are actually raw. And I have purposefully not sent any of them off to CGC because I want to have them all here in one place, and I just want to look at them. And what I may end up doing is I may end up doing a super long video where I'm like, here's number 1, here's number 2, and just rip through it, just because it is I talk to people all the time that have completed the run, and it is such a satisfying moment to know that it's possible to achieve a big goal and then to actually take that goal down. And I want to just take a moment to just acknowledge the effort that went into it, right? And it's effort not just by me, it's effort by local comic shops that have worked with me to find these books. It is effort by members of this community that have bought books from me, that have put me in a position to go buy one of these books. It is effort from members of this community that have sent me books. Like somebody just sent me, I did receive 2 copies of Amazing Spider-Man Annual number 15 from 2 subscribers. Many people have contributed to what I'm actually doing here. Some of them are actually in this room right now. And so I want to do that video because some of those people have requested that I do it. And it's also important sometimes to just stop and celebrate successes, and so that's what I want to do. So that sounds like a great plan, Reggie. Kind of like, yes, there you go. It'll be fun. T-Bone, how you doing? It's good to see you. Yeah, we're probably going to do Harvey Abel here is like talking about we'll do X-Men. So I think, the focus really has been on 1 through 261. That's been the focus. In the background, I've been also picking up 262 through 801. I haven't shown you guys those books because many of those books aren't really relevant because they're not like major books, but I have been picking those books up. So what I'm going to do is once I finish it, I want to sit back and I want to look at, do I have some missing issues between 1 and 801? And if I do, I'm going to work to kind of fill those in so that I actually have a complete run. I'm not worrying about the variant so much as the A cover, if you will. That's truly the focus. And as I work to kind of fill in those gaps more between 261 and 801, I'm probably going to turn my attention to some of the X-Men keys because there are some awesome X-Men books out there that I want to pick up. A lot of it will probably be like the Chris Claremont, John Burns stuff that I'll focus on. Maybe some of the lower number X-Men books like the First Sentinels, the First Juggernaut. Those are awesome books that I want in my collection. So I'll probably turn my attention to some of those, but I probably won't do a full run, if you will, of X-Men. I probably will not do that. So, and then I'll also probably pick up I'll probably upgrade some of the ASM books. Some of them are kind of low grade, and I'll probably try to upgrade some of them at various points, and then just kind of do it that way. So that's kind of the goal. Comic Book Hustler's like, yep, I got that Beavis and Butthead run. What you know about that? We should definitely talk. Clay says he has a lot of X-Men doubles. We should definitely talk about that, my friend, when the time comes. I have a guy locally here that is actually giving me like one really nice X-Men book, and he's an X-Men guy big time. And so when I get to that point, I'm going to start to reach out to some folks that I know that are big time X-Men folks and start having some conversations about what's going on. So so you want me to spend my money to complete my run and then give away more money? Harvey Abel. Harvey's always trying to get something for free. I like that dude. All right. So scrolling down through the comments, so that was the other part. Amazing. AF15 is still on the list. So 2020, it'll be focused on Amazing Fantasy 15 because I still need that book. I still want it here in the room. All right. So I think we're pretty good shape with this thing. As I wrap this thing up, what I will say to you is, I do not believe that this is over. I believe that Sony and Marvel are going to find some way to work out a deal. That is my hope. That is my belief, that they are going to find a way to find a compromise where everybody can be happy from a financial standpoint, because we should never be confused about this. This is all comes down to money. And so my hope is that they are able to work out a compromise where all parties can be happy with the financial arrangements, and then the actors and the fans can make and see the movies that we want to see, and we can enjoy them. And if not, movies are still going to be made. Movies are still going to be made, and we are still going to support those movies because we are comic book fans, and that is what we do. We go see movies and we enjoy them, and then we critique them. So I don't believe that it's over. I remain hopeful. My fingers and toes are crossed that they're going to be able to figure this thing out. All right. So with that, I'm going to wrap this thing up, and I want to thank you guys for hanging out with me just a little bit. If you need to reach out to me, feel free to do so at RegieCollects on Instagram and RegieCollects@gmail.com. If you have not yet entered this week's giveaway, you definitely want to check it out. We are giving away New Teen Titans #2, the first appearance of Deathstroke. That is the book that we are actually giving away. So you have to watch the videos that are being released over the course of this week. Find the video where I say, hey, if you want to win this book, do this thing. We are giving the book away. You tune into the Ready, Set, Go preview show on Sunday night at 7:30 p.m. Pacific time to find out if you are indeed the winner. We give away these awesome books every single week. And if you aren't subscribed, then you can't be a winner. So make sure that you subscribe so that you can stay abreast, not just of all the content that we release, but also so that you can be in the running for these prizes that we do. Huge shout out to Mr. Comic 89, and one other person who I can't remember right now, who actually won some instant AOKs that I was doing on the community tab. I'm going to continue to do those things. So you want to continue to stay tuned to the channel, to the community tab, because we have a lot of books that we're going to continue giving away to you guys. So just FYI on that. But like I said, if you guys need me, don't hesitate to reach out, because I am always available. Take care.